John's all ready to go today.
Bam! We are ready.
All right. You want to just go ahead and start?
Why not?
Oh, John's out. What?
John-
Refresh first, please.
John went
Where's
to.
John? Audio issues? Oh, God damn it, John. Oh, we were so close.
Just refresh, John. JT.
We
two?
almost.
I'm here.
Oh, he's back. We almost had an episode without John.
I just wanted to make sure before I refreshed, in case we lost all audio. So
Yeah.
my USB port got disconnected.
Welcome to the Good Games Podcast. My name is James.
I am Leo.
And I am John.
And today,
This is a very odd intro for us.
we're going to be talking about Bloodstained.
The staining of blood.
The staining of blood. That's what we're talking about. Yeah. How are you guys all doing today?
Doing good.
All right.
Good.
Yeah.
That's good. So yeah, Bloodstained, guys. What are you thinking?
What do you think, John?
I thought it was an average game.
Okay.
All right, so we can call that a podcast, right? No. An average game, Jonathan. What do you mean average?
So, all right. I'm going to give this game the same treatment you gave Monster Hunter World.
Okay, all right.
So, where's the health bars?
What do you mean? They're in the top left.
No, the enemy health bars.
Oh, the enemy health bars. They're not there. You can't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, okay, and why is the first boss extremely hard and impossible to tell how far how far you've been beating it?
Do we before we get into this, we should probably explain what this is, huh?
Yeah,
What's
sure.
it?
I mean, just at a high level, just it's a Metroidvania. Like, there's not really much more to say.
Yeah. Well, okay. Just for the back knowledge, that's not a word. Just for the
Context.
just to give a frame, some context, frame of reference for those who may not be in the know. Bloodstained was an extremely hyped Kickstarter coming from Koji Igarashi, who was the director and producer of many Castlevania games, which later became known as the Metroidvania Castlevania games, due to their gameplay shift in similar elements to the Metroid series. So the Castlevania series was dormant for a long time, not counting Lords of Shadow, which I don't really. The Castlevania, the Metroidvania Castlevania games were nowhere to be seen for a long time, and obviously Konami. I don't even know what Konami does anymore. I don't think they make video games. So Koji Igarashi went to Kickstarter and was like, "Hey, I want to make a game." It was one of those, stories where within X hours it had 10 times the amount of money he was asking for. Very, very hyped. And there was a lot of eyes on this game, especially in light of the relative disappointments of Mighty Number 9 and Ukulele. There was a lot of people like, oh, hey, these other two really hyped Kickstarters just kind of busted. So what's going to happen with Bloodstained? So that's what Bloodstained is. It's a Metroidvania coming from the DNA, the bloodline of the
Castlevania series.
The Castlevania games, but specifically the ones that were Metroid tinged, Metroid influenced. So that's the background on Bloodstained. So John, you said the first boss is impossible. I don't even remember the first boss. What's the first boss?
All right. Let me
Squid tentacle thing or something.
Oh, the mermaid thing?
No. Well, I guess that is technically the first boss, although
it's like a mermaid tentacle. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Which one are you talking about?
I was probably referring to the second boss in this instance, which is Zangetsu.
Okay.
So let me back up a little bit and just say that the
Yeah.
experience
Yeah.
of like just dropping you in the game and then giving you a ton of dialogue is like really, jarring. It's hard for you to like get really invested in the story when there's just a ton of speech bubbles everywhere. And
Okay.
for me, like the opening ship was a okay tutorial, wasn't really noteworthy. It was kind of the boring part of the game, and they could have made that a little bit more interesting. And then for me, the Zangetsu, the first boss and the
Okay.
castle.
Okay. Wait. Before we move on, you got to help me qualify this a little bit. What? So the speech bubbles are boring, but what would you have preferred?
Um, like a little bit more concise, either concise storyline, so less speech bubbles, or more cutscene
Okay.
type sequences. I noticed in some instances there was cutscenes, and I thought those were really really cool. But just to have like 10 pieces of dialogue to explain one concept, I had to skip through a bunch of the
Okay.
story.
Yeah. Right. Okay. And then, so the ship is boring. What do you mean boring? Like what? How boring? How? Like what do you mean?
It's not particularly. It doesn't contribute to the overall map, right? It's just a tutorial sequence that is completely. You throw it away after you beat that first boss, and then once you get in the castle, you're basically have no benefit of going back there or acquiring anything.
There's a couple things you missed.
Uh,
There's a couple reasons to go back to the ship.
yeah,
But you're right. You're right. For the most part, that is a just designed as a standalone tutorial.
Right. I did notice there's a few areas that are unreachable unless you get some of the skills later in the game.
Yep. That's sort of a hallmark of Metroidvania games. You have many, it's very open-ended. You have many branching paths, but some of those paths may be locked away to you until you unlock a new ability for your character that allows you to traverse into those new areas.
Right. And then I think for me, the biggest thing that is upsetting to the game, and I'm sure all you guys might be able to relate to this, is the balance seems really off. Like
The balance?
Yeah. So like earlier in the game, things are ridiculously hard, and then once you get a certain set of items and shards and weapons, it just becomes like steamrolling through the rest of the game like no problem. And I don't know if you guys had that experience or not, but the game just became really easy, and I'm just essentially exploring the map and not really worried about managing my health or magic or anything like that.
Are you cooking something right now?
Yeah, maybe. Hold
on. Leo, you've been very, very quiet. Did you experience this balance?
Well, I mean, I had a very different, I think, experience than John, but I do agree with him on some of his points. This game was definitely very hyped up. It is something that was coming from that kind of for Castlevania fans was the coming of Second Christ or something. And
sure, yeah,
it's got a lot of hype, a lot of clout. And I thought this game was absolute dog shit.
What? Really?
I could not play this game.
Wow.
I thought this was one of the worst games I've played in my life.
What? What the hell?
This was so bad.
All right, you're going to have to explain this to me.
Hold on. I was on a plane flight for 2 hours.
Yeah.
And I tried both the 2 hours to Texas and 2 hours back to play this game. I could not fucking play this game more than 2 hours.
Now wait a minute. You're on the plane. You're playing the Switch version, right?
Yes.
I was curious about the Switch version.
And John, that might have something to do with it. I won't lie. I won't lie. That might have something to do with it. But I'm telling you, I could not even get myself to play through the tutorial area of this game.
So at time of recording, just so people know, at time of recording, at launch, Bloodstained has had a lot of technical issues on the Switch specifically.
Yeah, I mean, to say the game is really bad, I don't think it's deserving of that. It's enjoyable. Like I had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's like the classic game or the hyped up game that everyone expects it to be, right? Like I feel like maybe if I played some of the older Castlevania games. Like I think there's one that everyone likes. I forget the name of it.
Symphony of the Night.
Symphony of the Night. It sounds like Symphony of the Night is just a better made game overall.
See, that's interesting because neither of you guys have played Symphony of the Night, which is one of my favorite Castlevania games. If I had criticisms for Bloodstained, and I definitely do, I would say it is way too close to Symphony of the Night. A lot of it just felt like Symphony of the Night again. Not enough new ideas. Not enough. I don't know. I was expecting a little more. I don't know, creativity, new ideas. It's very much just Symphony of the Night Redux, which some people may love and some people may not. Now, we have three very polar opinions here. Leo's on one end; he hated the game. I think John falls somewhere in the middle. I thought Bloodstained was pretty damn good. Did I get that right? Am I accurate on everyone's?
Yeah, I think that pretty much sums it up.
Okay, so Leo, talk a little bit more about what you couldn't. So you said you couldn't even bring yourself to play the game. What drove you away from this game?
So I mean, the fact that you mentioned the Switch port, that may have a lot to do with it, because one of the most frustrating things about this game is how slow the movement is.
Yes. No, I picked up the game on Switch and played the opening tutorial in the ship, and I was like, what is going on with the input delay?
It is unplayable, dude. Like,
there is a noticeable half-second input delay on Nintendo Switch for Bloodstained at launch. It was pretty bad.
I wonder if it's running at 30 FPS.
And I think those other things that John mentioned just compounded onto that. Not like the lack of health bars is maybe that's I don't know that I necessarily noticed that specifically, but I could see how that probably adds to my frustration. And
there's just a general lack of information, and that's primarily presented with the health bars. But there's also just I had to look up how to get rice in the game. Like, there was no tutorial on go back to where your starting area, and there's a bunch of NPCs you can interact with. And did you run past all the NPCs? Yeah, I mean, it took me forever to find that. And then another thing is there's a teleportation system in the game, and these green areas let you do that, and it's never explained.
That is true. That's a holdover from the older Castlevania games. You just know that red save room, green teleport room, blue is anything else.
Why are they not combined? Like, why is there two separate rooms for red and green?
I could kind of see the point of that. Because you want to have way more save rooms than you do teleportation rooms. Because if you have too many teleportation rooms, it just becomes way too easy to move throughout the castle. Like, the castle layout, doesn't matter anymore because you can just teleport exactly to where you want to teleport to. You know what I mean?
I mean, you could just make less save. That's kind of what Hollow Knight did, right? Like, they just let you save at any bench and then let you pretty much travel to. There's usually a travel point right next to it nearby.
Yeah.
Often they would couple the save points with the travel points. Yeah.
But the problem with this formula is that you may stumble upon a really difficult boss, and there's a save room around the corner, and there's no way you could have known, and you lose all that progress.
They telegraph after you play enough of this game, they telegraph the boss doors. All the boss doors are those. They're it looks like metal with an orange red tint on it, and the door has a mechanical whoosh open. No other doors in that game work that way. So
I did not notice that, and this is exactly the same kind of critique as Monster Hunter World, where the monster's limp, and you're not really noticing that. You're just noticing the fact that you're wailing on it all day long.
Yeah, I'm kind of with John on this though, because I just want to apply all the same hate I gave Monster Hunter is pretty much equivalent to all the reasons I hate this game. I'm with John on this.
Not for me, not at all. So the problem with Monster Hunter is the enemies take forever to bring down, right?
Where in Bloodstained, if you're good, they don't take forever.
Well, then same logic for Bloodstained, I suppose. But in general, boss fights in Bloodstained are very, very short. We're talking like a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, something like that.
But it's not just about how long it takes for the thing to get down. It's the frustrating combat. Sorry, while you're fighting, like
okay, what do you mean?
Like it just feels bad. Like it doesn't feel fluid. Like
I'm sure it does on the Switch, which is why I was warning you against the Switch version.
Whatever, and maybe again,
Switch, yeah.
Take my review with a grain of salt because I am the Switch player. But
yeah, the Switch version did really feel bad. Yeah, I agree.
But it's also not. It's not just like input lag. I don't think it's literally. The mechanics of the game are such that if you want to flow from a physical attack to like a magic attack, you have to basically L cancel it. Like there's no other way to kind of combo from your jab to your magic. It just feels stupid. Like it feels like how Monster Hunter felt stupid when you swung a sword and you had to wait 80 years for the animation to finish before you can do something else. Like that kind of thing.
I didn't so much, as long as we're comparing this to Monster Hunter, I didn't so much have that problem with Monster Hunter.
I did.
Just, okay. Monster Hunter was just lack of information and like lack of, which I can see how you guys are applying that to Bloodstained, but
yeah, I think this applies some there too. Yeah,
maybe, but like the main difference is like the difference for me is battles in Monster Hunter take for fucking ever. They take, we're talking 10, 20, 30, an hour long boss fight. These are 1, 2, 3 minute boss fights. Like, I don't really need to know how much health the boss has if I know I can take it down that fast,
Yeah.
Okay, just me, I suppose. That was not really a
I'm just trying to think. Like I enjoy like Hollow Knight was not a raving review from me, but I think I did more or less enjoy that game for for what it is a lot more than this game. Like
why?
That's what I'm trying to figure out. Like, if you handed me these two games, I will 100% of the time play Hollow Knight.
Because if you're criticizing lack of information, lack of health bars, you have to say the same thing about Hollow Knight.
But that's my point. It's like I don't know what it is about Hollow Knight. Like it just felt, and again, maybe it's a Switch thing, but Hollow Knight felt smooth. Like controlling the character felt solid.
The controls in Hollow Knight are extremely tight. This felt, I mean, the controls aren't like super tight or whatever. Like it's definitely not as elegant of a system as Hollow Knight, but
I think that has a lot to do with it, to be honest. And I don't think that's necessarily just like a Switch port issue. I think it's the fact that they were basically kind of targeting a specific style for a game that was created years ago that a lot of people wanted, and that's fine. But as someone who's not necessarily the target audience, I just felt like it just felt bad. It just felt aged. It didn't age well. And that maybe coupled with the Switch issues made it kind of, maybe that's where it all adds up for me.
I could see that. And that's part of what I was criticizing was just like the lack of innovation. Like this is very much just Symphony of the Night again. It would have been nice to have a little more of a, I don't know, a little more of an interactive, a little more of an interactive combat system. I don't know. I didn't dislike it, but you're right.
You know what? Like even when you just jab, okay, let's say you just jab over and over with a dagger or something. Did you notice that it's just the same animation over and over?
Yeah.
This is just repeats like little 2-frame animation.
Yeah.
Like just like any game worth its clout in the last 10 years is going to have like a cool kind of like just an extra little animation so that if you hit, X 3 times, it looks a little different each swing, like almost like a combo or something, but not necessarily a combo mechanic, just an animation,
Okay.
Even that would just add a little bit of smoke and mirrors to make it look a little bit more appealing, but I don't know. I'll get off my high horse here. I'm just
I don't know. I definitely none of those. I like maybe a little more innovation. Okay, before I get to my criticisms, what did you guys think of? This is a weird conversation to have because I'm comparing this game to Symphony of the Night, which is a game I know neither of you have played. What did you guys think of the like shop and crafting aspects of Bloodstained?
I thought it was rather deep. I liked the things that they presented. My only issue was just like the sheer amount of resources required to do anything. Like it just like the gold costs seem really high for me to really like spend too much time with it. I was better off just finding items in the castle itself than trying to craft anything or buy anything.
Definitely. Oh, definitely. Yeah.
And like I guess maybe to the point earlier about the save rooms and the teleport rooms, like I guess like the one benefit is without the teleport rooms is it forces you to farm a little bit more, which is interesting. But yeah, I don't know. I think overall it's good, but nothing amazing.
I liked both of those things, the shopping and the crafting. Both of these elements are like largely absent from Symphony of the Night. It does have like a shopping system. Like the shopping thing does exist in Symphony of the Night. You just don't tend to do it that much because it's kind of out of your way, and the items you can get are not that great. So yeah, I liked having that teleport room very close to the shop, and just having that be like your home base that you return to a lot. It gave the game a nice like cycle, just like a hook that you keep doing over and over again. You go explore some rooms, you get some loot, you come back, you upgrade your gear, you go back into the castle, you explore some more, get some loot, upgrade your gear. That loop was very satisfying to me. The crafting, I have mixed feelings on the crafting. I feel like that sort of thing lends itself well to this type of game because there were no crafting elements in, I'm pretty sure, any of the Castlevania games before Bloodstained. I feel like it lends itself well to this type of game because like you have just tons of enemies in a huge castle that can drop unique loot, and you can craft gear to upgrade your like. Castlevania has always been a game that has been very interested in like statistics and like way more on the like role-playing game side of things as opposed to like a Metroid, right? Because like Castlevania has all these like gear and items and loot and stats that you can upgrade, whereas Metroid doesn't. It kind of obscures all that information away, right? Like you can upgrade Samus's armor, but like the only indication that you've upgraded the armor is like just a color swap. Like there are no stats associated. I mean, there are under the hood, but from a UI perspective, there's no stats associated with her armor. It's just a different color, and you can tell when you take damage, you take reduced damage if you have a better thing. Anyway, so I feel like all the crafting stuff lends itself well to this type of game. What I didn't like is I found like myself later on, like when I had like late game, I was like, ooh, I want to craft some of the best weapons and armor. And there is like an in-game, library of monsters. And if you find certain pieces of loot, the game will tell you which monsters will drop which loot. But if you haven't seen that loot yet, you don't know. If you haven't picked it up, you don't know which monsters drop which loot. So there's like certain loot that I had found in like a treasure chest or something, and I'm like, oh, I wonder if monsters drop this so that I can make some new gear or whatever. And I found myself just like looking up recipes, and then I was like, oh, there's this one monster that drops this loot, and then I found myself just like farming monsters forever, which was not necessarily fun, but I don't know how much I can criticize the game for that as opposed to just criticizing myself for finding an unfun way to play this game.
And now it's a job. Well done, James.
Yeah, like I don't know that I'm necessarily criticizing the game, but like I found an unfun element of the game and latched onto it so that I could get the best armor and weapons. Anyway, that's my thoughts on the crafting. That's not really a criticism of Bloodstained, but if I had to criticize this game,
I'll take it.
The first, what?
I'll take that as a criticism.
Okay.
No, if you have more criticisms, that's fine. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, my first criticism would have to be this is largely way too similar to Symphony of the Night. Right. Like a lot of, like there were some, how far did you guys get before? Do you guys care if I spoil some of the late game stuff? I will
never touch this game again. Don't worry about
it. That's a shame because this game is really good.
Don't spoil the story, but you can tell me about the mechanics.
Okay. The story, that's another criticism. The story,
the story's garbage.
I could take or leave the story. I don't really care about the characters or their motivations or what they're doing. I don't know.
But they treat it like you're supposed to care like right away, and I'm like, what? I don't know anything.
there is a lot of like upfront dialogue and stuff for like a game that I don't really care about the story of. But again, I don't know how much. Maybe some people are really invested in Bloodstained lore. I don't know. Just didn't do anything for me, the story wise. Anyway,
literally no one is invested in Bloodstained lore.
Hey, write a comment if you like Bloodstained lore.
Tell me if I'm wrong, people. Go ahead.
So yeah, way too close to Symphony of the Night. A lot of the areas just felt like stuff I had already seen in Symphony of the Night. Like a lot of the like Gothic architecture, like the big cathedrals, like the cave and water area underneath the castle. Like it was just like, oh, I've seen all this before. There were a couple of the late game areas, like the Oriental, what was it? The Oriental sorcery something. That area was cool. And the area where like you're a tiny and all the people are huge. That was a cool area. I forget what both of those. Okay, one of my biggest criticisms, though, did you guys get to the underwater area? Probably not.
I got to the underwater area, and then I got to the secret desert area after that, and then that's where I'm at right now.
You got decently far then. So John, how did you navigate the underwater area? Like, how did you figure that out?
Because pure luck. Complete.
Okay. I did not have the luck. And what we're talking about is when you first encounter a water area, Miriam can't swim. She just like floats on the water.
Yep.
And there's like all this area with like deep water.
Yep.
And I'm like, what the fuck? And then I'm like exploring the castle and I'm like ready to find the swimming ability because I've played enough of these games to know that there's definitely a swimming ability coming.
Yeah.
And I've like explored the whole castle and I'm like, what the hell?
Same here, dude.
And I was about to look up what the hell I had to do.
Yeah.
And then I was just going through the like water area and I just happened to kill one of those jellyfish things.
Same here.
And I was like, oh, cool, that's a new shard. I wonder what this one does. And then I'm like, what? This one lets you swim. What the hell?
Yeah.
And I'm not sure, like, that having a, like...
That's lazy design right there.
I don't know that it's lazy design. It's just bad design. It's like you have a point. You have like a key point of progression, like a required point of progression in the game, tied to a random drop from a monster. Like I don't like that.
To be fair, maybe that drop rate is extremely high.
Maybe it is
because I've never seen the jellyfish before that, and then when I killed it, I got the shard immediately.
No. Like I had explored the whole castle. I had my map filled in as best as I could, and I had killed a lot of those jellyfish things, or at least I'm pretty sure I had. And then I just came back and happened to kill one, and just happened to get the shard, even though I'd killed the jellyfishes before. And I was like, oh, what the hell? Yeah, I wish that was... Because I actually really like the level design in this game otherwise. I just wish that specific thing had been like, if you're gonna tie a point of progression to a random drop, like I need that to be signposted a little bit more. Like I need hints to be like, hey, have you killed the jellyfish monster? Like don't have me just randomly running around killing things and then like the random loot drop goes off and then I'm like, oh, I guess that's what I'm supposed to do.
Right. No, I was not too fond of that either, and I think that was, for me, was like the nail in the coffin for the whole lack of information thing overall. That general theme.
Yeah, can you elaborate more? You keep saying lack of information. Like,
it's just the general, like there's no indication of what you're supposed to do next, and
Okay, that's what I thought. That's sort of a hallmark of these games is just having lots of open paths,
right?
And you're not necessarily sure where you're supposed to go. That I don't have a problem with. It's when I've already explored all the paths. And then I happen to miss a random drop in one of those paths. That's what it's like, oh, what the fuck?
Well, okay. So, like, once you acquire the swimming ability, you go through all these areas, and there's chests everywhere, but there's no way you can open them. And so you never really know what you have to do to get the ability to open those chests, right? Like, that's... Like, I think that's, like you're saying, part of the hallmark, part of the fun of figuring that out on your own. But it's also kind of frustrating, because you're not used to just... the lack of handholding overall.
I guess those are my major criticisms of that game. Other than that, I thought Bloodstained was pretty fucking good.
Well, I'm glad somebody does. I mean, out of the three of us. No, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people love this game.
You need to wait till either that game gets a patch on Switch or play the PC version, Leo. It is not as bad as you think it is.
All right, I will try it again post patch and give an updated opinion on it.
Yeah, the tutorial area is bad, Leo. So once you get past that, you'll have a lot more fun.
All right.
What? Okay. The tutorial area is bad? What?
It's not as interesting as the main game.
Why?
It's just not. Like, it's just simply like it's just a way to get you used to the main gameplay loop of exploring the castle and finding items and doing stuff. Like the stuff like I mentioned before, the stuff you do in that main area doesn't really progress to anything.
I suppose. I didn't think it was bad though. I don't know. It was fine.
Yeah, it was fine.
It was fine.
Oh wait, I forgot to mention that. The one thing that I actually liked about Bloodstained, like the only saving grace for me, the only thing I liked was that the main character had like an extravagant orgasm every time she got stabbed by shards from enemies.
Oh, that is not what I thought you were going to say.
Yeah,
I thought you were either. I thought you were either going to bring up the best soundbite in that game, which is when any of the armored monsters die and go "ee."
Yeah, I laughed too hard at that.
That was surprising
every time. Yeah. So good.
Yes. Yeah, that was good too.
Ooh.
Yeah, you didn't get it far enough, Leo. You didn't hear that.
That's awesome.
Or I thought you were going to bring up the fact that Zangetsu is voiced by David Hayter, the voice of Solid Snake.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
No. For me, it was just whenever you unlocked a shard and it like stabbed her violently in the chest, she would just like orgasm.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
And it was like, oh, I like this part.
It's the complete
That's a little
opposite,
weird,
Leo.
That's a little weird.
She's getting corrupted further.
Oh, yeah.
Well, she seems to like it. So.
Okay. So our top 5 today, we're gonna do something a little bit different, something we've never done before. So we were talking about top 5s for this game, and I was like, oh, Bloodstained. Well, top 5 Metroidvanias seems pretty obvious, right? But between other than me, we probably don't have a way to come up with 5 Metroidvanias. So we're going to do a consensus list. We're going to, together, in real time, the 3 of us, create the definitive consensus Good Games Podcast top 5 Metroidvania games. I am going to start. Before we try to come up with an order, I propose we throw out some games and then cull that list down to 5 and then figure out what order we want those 5 in.
Gotcha.
I'm going to begin by throwing out Bloodstained. I think this game was pretty damn good, a worthy successor to Symphony of the Night. Even if very, very similar, I thought it was good, and I think it would make, if I had to make a top 5 list of Metroidvania games, this would be on the list. Objections, gentlemen? What? There's no objections?
Hold on. I was letting John answer while I was typing up list of Metroidvania games so I can have
I need to hear the other contenders before I can like
okay. Sorry.
Well, somebody else throw one out.
My delayed response to your suggestion is if we must.
You said this is one of the worst games you've played, Leo, and you're going to let this on the top. Okay.
I mean, I defer to your general knowledge of Metroidvanias a little bit there. So if you feel that we must have this game on the list, and John agrees, I will defer to the both of you.
Okay. Well, we'll put it on the table. Somebody else throw out a game. Let's debate some more games here.
I'm going to throw out an easy one. Or Leo, you go first if you want.
No. Let's get through low ball. Yeah.
All right. So it's a game we've already all played, and I think was overall high quality. Hollow Knight.
Slam dunk. It's on the list. Yeah. Absolutely. Slam dunk.
I support it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay.
I am going to throw out Super Metroid. Classic. I think that...
Now, is that
Huh?
Is that the Super Nintendo Metroid game?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Super Metroid.
I've played more of Super Metroid than I have this crappy game. Yeah.
Kind of codified and solidified what we now call the Metroidvania formula. What else? What else?
I'd like to humbly throw out there The Messenger.
The Messenger, very nice. Okay, all right, The Messenger. Hey, I need to start writing these down.
Yeah, write
so
them
we
down.
All right, I'm writing them down. All right, so we're at 4. Have any of you guys? Did you guys play Ori and the Blind Forest?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, it's a very good. It's a Metroidvania game that is probably a little more focused on platforming than it is combat. There's a lot of like platforming challenges in it. It is a visually stunning game. If you ever get the chance to watch some gameplay of Ori and the Blind Forest, it is an amazing game to look at.
Okay.
What else? What else? What else? What else? What else?
I mean, if we're going with like pseudo castle, maybe Metroidvania games, I think Guacamelee would qualify, right?
Absolutely, I love Guacamelee.
Yeah, for me that was like a personal favorite of mine.
Yeah, that game was awesome. Sort of the opposite of Ori and the Blind Forest. This is a very combat focused Metroidvania. Less. There was definitely some platforming challenges in that.
There's definitely some really hard platforming stuff in it.
Yeah, there's a lot of really hard platforming stuff. A lot of whatever. I just remember all of the like crazy combo stuff from that game. Yeah, good pick. What about? I know you guys haven't played it, but the original Symphony of the Night, the game that inspired all of Bloodstained and all of these other Castlevania games.
So based off of your brief summary of that game, I would say yes, and then also we're going to kick off Bloodstained since the games are so similar. And
ooh, okay, we got an elimination right now. We have to pick between Bloodstained and Symphony of the Night. My needle is going to go slightly in favor of Bloodstained.
Oh, wow. Okay.
What else? What else belongs on this list? What else deserves to be on this list? The best Metroidvanias.
How loosely do we need to define a Metroidvania? Like,
I would say I was sort of anticipating and fearing that this question would come up. I would say that it is a Metroidvania is characterized by like non-linear level design that like a lot of your points of progression
are the bosses
in some cases, because defeating a boss can grant you a new ability. Then once you have that ability, you can go back to previous areas you've explored before, and then you realize, oh, with this new ability, I can get to this new area.
So ability feature locking is a must-have to be called a Metroidvania?
I mean, to me, that's sort of what defines what a Metroidvania is. That's what Super Metroid did, and that's what Symphony of the Night copied. That sort of progression locked behind your character's abilities.
Okay.
Like your map, the areas of the map you have access to be able to explore are locked away behind abilities that you have to find somewhere in that map.
Okay. I guess my other recommendation as something I've played and enjoyed was Rogue Legacy, but that had kind of the boss, like there was different bosses you had to complete, and it had like the non-linear map, but it didn't necessarily lock anything behind ability.
No,
I would say the progression in that game comes from the repeated attempts.
Its own gimmick, right? But it was like it's like half a Metroidvania, really.
Kinda, yeah, half a Metroidvania. I don't think. I mean, it's sort of hard to draw lines around game genres, right? Because like a lot of games share design ideas, and it's hard to trace lines around game genres. But I'm ruling out Rogue Legacy.
I would agree.
Yeah. Okay, all right, 2 out of 3. Rogue Legacy's gone.
Yeah,
that's our first elimination. Leo, I'm going to throw out a game I think you have played more of than I have. What? This was, this is a game that one of like a really early indie game that got a lot of popularity. Dust and Elysian Tale.
Oh, that's right. I did play a lot of that game.
Yeah. What does that belong on this list? Does that have?
Was that a Metroidvania?
No, I wouldn't count that.
Okay. All right.
I don't think so. It was more just kind of like basic platformer.
2D combat platformer. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I was just asking because I know you had played more of that than I had. I didn't know if it had those same
That's
sort
a beautiful game, by the way. If you haven't played that game, it's gorgeous.
I've seen it at least, and I know it's gorgeous. All right. So we now have 7. We need to call this down to 5 and put them in order, unless we got any other.
I got one more.
Oh!
One last one. One more. I don't know how we're gonna vote on this or place this. It's Strider, the new Strider remake or 2015 game.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was a really good Strider game. I don't know if it's top.
You're gonna have to be It sounds like you're gonna have to be the champion of Strider because it sounds like you're the only one who's played it.
Yeah.
Which is fine because I think I can champion Ori and the Blind Forest and maybe a couple of these other games that I'm the only one who has played.
Okay.
What about have you guys played Axiom Verge?
No, I mean I've seen screenshots of that game. It definitely looks like a Metroidvania.
I've played a decent amount of it. I liked it, but I would not put that on a top 5 list. So I'm gonna go ahead and scratch Axiom Verge right now.
Okay.
Sorry, Axiom Verge fans. Sorry.
Didn't make the cut.
All right, we're at 8. Do we want to call 3 of these and put these in order, or we got anything else to throw out?
Sounds good to me.
All right. Starting with The Messenger. The first half of The Messenger is just a straight-up platformer. This doesn't really get Metroidvania-esque until the second half of the game. And if you go back and listen to our Messenger episode, I actually disliked the second half of the game the most, specifically because the levels were sort of designed to be played through in a linear fashion. And when you had to go back and traverse the levels in a non-linear fashion, go back and redo some of the platforming challenges you had done to get to new areas, I found that kind of tedious because it was challenges I had already completed, Yeah,
but it was somewhat tedious, but it was also, you were enhanced with your new abilities, so it was like a piece of cake.
Okay.
So I would argue that the fact that half of the game is locked behind an ability you don't get until later on is really at its essence the most Metroidvania type thing you could have.
Ooh.
The whole game is behind an ability lock.
What do you think, John?
I mean, I'll defer to you guys, but it seems to qualify.
What did you? Oh, did you not play the Messenger?
You didn't review that one with us?
No, I don't think I did.
Okay.
Oh,
all right. I'm gonna skip that one for now. Right. I'm gonna skip that one for now. What about Super Metroid? Am I the only one who's played that?
I played a little bit of it.
I really like Super Metroid. However, and I know this is sort of the grandfather to all of these Metroidvania games. This is the template, the holy grail of Metroidvanias. Mm-hmm. However, I think this formula has been done better since Super Metroid. There are way too many points of frustration in the original Super Metroid where your way to progress is not clearly signposted, sort of like what I was complaining about in Bloodstained with the random drop from the jellyfish. There's a lot of that in Super Metroid, not necessarily tied to random drops, but just stuff you wouldn't think to do, and those are key points of progression. That is kind of frustrating, and I don't think the combat in Super Metroid is particularly interesting.
I was not a fan of the combat in that game.
This would be a candidate for me to actually call Super Metroid off the list of best Metroidvanias.
Wow,
which would be shocking. Should I put a flag in that, or do we want to call this right now? Get rid of it right now.
I would. That would have been my first question to you if it still held up, and it sounds like it doesn't.
I think it holds up. I think this is still a great game you can play right now today.
Well, it holds up in what it doesn't hold up in the context of against other Metroidvanias. This is what he's asking.
That's exactly. Yeah. Exactly. That's if somebody had never played a Metroidvania before, I wouldn't say go play Super Metroid. I would say go play Hollow Knight.
Yeah. I agree. I'm with you. I say we call it.
All right, Super Metroid's gone. Super Metroid, the grandfather of Metroidvania, is gone.
You heard it here, folks.
Not part of the top 5 greatest Metroidvanias. What about Bloodstained, the game we just talked about? Do we want to compare between Bloodstained and Symphony of the Night and just take one of them?
Or we can compare Bloodstained and Super Metroid and look at all those similarities.
Well, Super Metroid's already gone.
Yeah.
Huh?
So Bloodstained should be gone too.
So we're gonna take Symphony. We're gonna take Symphony of the Night over Bloodstained.
Oh no, sorry. I'm just saying. No, I just felt like when you talk about shitty combat.
I will give this game points for the combat. The combat was kind of fun, but
here's why I take Bloodstained over Symphony of the Night. And I've said a lot already. These games are very similar, and they are. I'm still taking Bloodstained over Symphony of the Night. I'm going to give Symphony of the Night a slight edge in art style. I think the game looks better even today now. Like the pixel art in Symphony of the Night blended with the early PS1 CG graphics actually still looks really cool. And a lot of the locations were really unique, interesting, and original, which was something I found lacking in Bloodstained. However, I think one of what makes a Metroidvania work to me is, so I was talking about the loop that you have in Bloodstained, where you go exploring, you get some loot, you come back to your safe place, your home base, you upgrade your character, whatever. Part of what makes that loop work is the risk-reward tension you have while you're exploring, right? Because as your character gets lower and lower on health, the temptation to double back to the closest safe room, the closest teleport room, whatever, gets bigger and bigger, right? Do I keep pushing forward into unknown territory, or do I go play it safe and cash in with all the loot that I have right now? There is something that breaks that in Symphony of the Night, and one of them, something that breaks that in Symphony of the Night is you have Alucard has abilities, and one of them I can think off the top of my head specifically is called Dark Metamorphosis. Which, if you have this ability, and actually you start the game with this ability, it's a we didn't really talk about it in Bloodstained, but all of the different weapons in Bloodstained all have different almost like fighting game inputs, where you do a quarter circle, half circle, a shoryuken motion, which is a weird zigzag on your controller.
Oh yeah, the techniques.
And you can unlock special techniques that are hidden behind these weapons. In Symphony of the Night, they're similar to Bloodstained. They're unlocked right from the get-go, but in Symphony of the Night, they're not tied to the weapons. You just always have them, always.
You always had them in Bloodstained as well. You just didn't know what the inputs were.
Oh, no. You always have them, but they're specific to each weapon. Right. If you have sword abilities, you don't get your sword abilities anymore if you're holding a gun or a whip or whatever. In Symphony of the Night, they're not tied to weapons. You just always have access to all these abilities, and as soon as you know how to do them, you can just do them forever. As long as Alucard has enough MP left, enough magic points left.
Wait, so you can do the sword input while you're equipped with a gun? What will happen when you do that in Symphony of the Night?
So in Symphony of the Night, the abilities aren't tied to weapons at all. They're just abilities that you can just use. And
okay.
Yeah. And some of them are different magic spells, some of them are whatever. Anyway, one of them is called Dark Metamorphosis. And if you are fighting an enemy that bleeds, so that has whatever blood, Alucard can absorb blood and get health back. The problem with Dark Metamorphosis is there's no limit to how much you can do this other than your MP, and your MP recharges over time. So it breaks that tension of exploring and doubling back to safe rooms or whatever.
Just heal whenever you want.
You can just heal whenever you want. You can just farm enemies for health.
God mode unlocked.
Which is you're kind of doing it to yourself, similar to what I was talking about earlier when I was just kind of farming monsters forever. You can just farm monsters for health, which is not that much fun, but it is something that you can do that kind of breaks the game in an unfun way. Anyway, that is something I really don't like about Symphony of the Night, and I like about Bloodstained. Also, in general, I find the castle layout and the level design in Bloodstained to flow and be a lot more, intuitive and logical than it was in Symphony of the Night. For those reasons, I'm giving Bloodstained a slight edge over Symphony of the Night. Do we want to cross off Symphony of the Night off of the top 5 Metroidvania list.
You're just killing big hitters left and right.
Symphony of the Night and Super Metroid are like the two grandfathers of. We're gonna kill both of these right off the top here.
I was just gonna point out like the big criticism that you pointed out from Symphony of the Night, how easily you can break the game. I think that still exists in Bloodstained.
How do you
like? I was using the shard. We are the company, the one with the paintings.
Oh, I didn't do that. What's that do?
That gives you a shield of paintings, and it's just extremely powerful and low MP cost, and you upgrade it, and it's just ridiculous. Like you can run through the whole game with that toggled on the whole time.
Yeah.
So I found the similar experience that you're referring to with like the blood sucking.
Yeah,
that like is in this game as well.
Well, not necessarily blood sucking where it like breaks the tension of like you never feel like you have to.
It all but makes the game easy mode. You know, it just removes the challenge.
Basically.
Strikeouts.
Bloodstained is taking it. Bloodstained is taking it for me over Symphony of the Night. We've gotten rid of Super Metroid and Symphony of the Night. Neither of these, Holy Grail games are making the top 5 Metroidvania lists.
This is a pretty controversial list right here.
Yeah. This is already very controversial. What about, I'm the only one who's played Ori and the Blind Forest. I liked this game a lot. I thought it was good. It is very platforming focused. As I said before, the game's visually very gorgeous. I would have no hesitations about putting this on a top 5 list. Our other ones, we got Hollow Knight. That is a slam dunk for me. I will fight tooth and nail for Hollow Knight to be okay.
Yeah.
What about Guacamelee?
I mean, I liked Guacamelee, but I don't think it's fair to really compare him to these other games that are more classical in terms of the definition of what a Metroidvania is.
Well, let's compare Guacamelee to Strider then, John. Both of these are games you've pitched. Guacamelee, do we want to make a choice between Guacamelee and Strider? Our other picks are The Messenger, Bloodstained, Hollow Knight, and Ori and the Blind Forest.
If I had to pick between Strider and Guacamelee, that's a tough call. I mean, I've played Guacamelee more, and I think it's more appealing to like the masses than say something like Strider.
I love Guacamelee. I love that game's sense of humor.
I would say it's fitting to the Metroidvania formula too, right?
Yeah. So, sure. I mean, yeah.
Guacamelee it is?
Yeah, definitely.
All right. We have our 5. We got to come up with an order for this. Our 5 are The Messenger, Bloodstained, Hollow Knight, Ori and the Blind Forest, and Guacamelee.
Okay.
All right, guys, what's our number 5?
Number 5, Bloodstained.
Yeah,
I'm going to say Bloodstained as well.
Well, that's 2 out of 3. I don't know that I can make a compelling argument for Bloodstained to be higher on this list. I liked it a lot, but I think there are better Metroidvanias. I am fine with keeping Bloodstained at number 5.
Nice.
Number 4, is it The Messenger, Hollow Knight, Ori and the Blind Forest, or Guacamelee?
I'm gonna be honest with myself, and I will offer to put up Messenger for number 4.
I am fine with The Messenger at number 4 or Guacamelee at number 4, I think. What do you think, John? The Messenger or Guacamelee?
That's a tough call for me. I mean, I have no context on how The Messenger should be placed. It sounded like it was a really good game.
Did you listen to the podcast episode?
No, I don't think I did, actually.
What the?
Oh, John!
Maybe I need to go back and listen to it.
All right, in that case, Guacamelee number 4, because I was just being nice before, but I actually think Messenger should be way higher.
Maybe that's fair.
I'm going to give... It's interesting comparing these two games, because these are two games that both like have a very good sense of humor. That is one of the... All right, so what? Guacamelee number 4.
So you're the coin flip, James. John says Guacamelee. I said Messenger. You're the deciding factor.
This is so hard for me. I think this is hard for me because I think Guacamelee embodies a Metroidvania more traditionally. Because, like we said before, The Messenger is only a Metroidvania for the last half of the game, which is, by the way, a huge spoiler. That's one of the cool things about this game is you don't really know that twist is coming. But I would say I like The Messenger as a game, as an overall package, a lot better than Guacamelee.
Me too.
Okay. So, do we want to say Guacamelee is number 4?
Yeah.
All right.
Sure. So.
Number 3, then, is that The Messenger?
I guess that's fair.
Okay.
Did you guys like Messenger less than Hollow Knight? That's the question.
Yes.
Okay.
I know that I'm probably going to be outvoted there, but I think that if I'm speaking subjectively, I think it's fair to put Messenger at 3.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, number 1 and number 2, Hollow Knight and Ori and the Blind Forest.
All right, you're gonna have to sell me on Ori for whether or not to put on a number 2. Like my initial reaction, my gut feeling would be Ori for number 2, but
same.
Yeah,
same.
I would say the same.
Same, only because I think Hollow Knight is fucking brilliant.
I would say without a doubt, Hollow Knight is the best Metroidvania I've ever played because it's the only one I've played like extensively. So like it's got my attention for that long.
Any objections?
Did these games come out the same year or no?
Let's see. Well, Bloodstained
Messenger
is obviously...
and Hollow Knight might have been close.
They might have been close. Let's see. Let's do a little research. Yep.
I thought there was like a Game Awards on Spike TV where Ori beat out Hollow Knight or something like that.
Oh, really?
The Game Awards hasn't been on Spike TV since fucking forever, man.
Or sorry. Just the Game Awards.
Okay, so here's a little here's something interesting about our list. Bloodstained was obviously 2019. Guacamelee, I think, is going to be the oldest game on this list at 2013. The Messenger was 2018. Ori and the Blind Forest was, I just had it here, 2015. And Hollow Knight was 2017. So yeah, all very recent Metroidvania games. 2013 is the oldest game we have on this list. So we're saying the newer games are the better games. That's basically.
I mean, Bloodstained is the newest one. It's on the bottom of our list.
Well, that's true. But I meant like compared to
to like the old school,
classics,
the forefathers, the grandfathers, Super Metroids, the Symphony of the Nights.
They took the same formula and just added a little bit more pizzazz and have let it reach bigger audiences and just made them better.
I don't disagree with you. Also, a lot of indie games on this list: Hollow Knight, Messenger, Guacamelee. It's kind of sort of Bloodstained. Not really. I mean, it's made by veteran people, but whatever.
I think that this style of game is not really mass marketable. So
really,
it's definitely no. Yeah, I mean, I think this is something that's for gamers. For people who appreciate the art of the Metroidvania. This style of game to me is not. It has not. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that it's not an enormous amount of people who like these games, but I'm just saying they're not like, your best dad award. I like to shop for video games at Walmart and play Call of Duty. Like,
yeah.
That guy's
okay,
games.
They're not on the same level as Call of Duty, right? Yeah.
Right.
All right, that's our list. Number 5, Bloodstained. Number 4, Guacamelee. Number 3, The Messenger. Number 2, Ori and the Blind Forest. Number 1, Hollow Knight. Those are the top 5 best Metroidvanias, definitively.
That's a solid list,
according to the Good Games podcast.
Yeah,
very solid list. That is, by the way, if I just made this list in a void, that is not far off. That is not far off. Like our group consensus definitive list is not far off from what my personal list would be. I would definitely. I think I would have the order a little bit different, but.
I'm surprised you guys would have Guacamelee in your top 5.
Why?
Considering, like, I don't. It's just a personal favorite game of mine. I didn't know, like, you guys both thought similar.
Yeah,
I think it's definitely. I think it's definitely high on the list of like really good popular Metroidvanias. Mm-hmm. I know because I googled it.
I've yet to play Guacamelee 2, which is a big blind spot for me. I need to play Guacamelee 2. So yeah, maybe that'll make it on this list over the original Guacamelee. Who knows? Once one of us has anyone played this game, Guacamelee 2?
No, I played a few hours of it.
Is it good?
It's yeah, it's good. It's pretty good. I just haven't had too much time to dive deeper into it.
Yeah. All right, that's our list. What do you guys want to endorse? You want me to go first? What's going on here?
Yeah, you go first. Yeah, you don't often go first with these.
I'm going to go first, guys. I am going to endorse learning a second language. I am currently learning Japanese because I'm a dork, and I'm going to more specifically. Yeah, exactly. I'm going to more specifically endorse the Pimsleur method, which Pimsleur is an audiobook course available from Audible, which is a Amazon service. Audible has a bunch of audiobooks. You can get Pimsleur's Japanese.
Is this the kind of thing you like listen to as you fall asleep?
I mean, you could, but you don't really want to. Basically, the structure of the lessons are they will say a word or a phrase in English, and then they'll say that same word or phrase in Japanese. So you get to hear, you get to know what it is in English and then hear what it is in Japanese. Then they will just prompt you in English, and you're supposed to say the Japanese repeated as you learned it previously. It's kind of interactive in that way, and they keep bringing up words in English and you say the Japanese, and then that's basically the structure of the lesson, just repeating words and phrases over and over again until you hear them and learn them and internalize them. I am on lesson 24 or 25 now. I'd say it's working pretty effectively. I feel like I'm learning and retaining a lot of the language I am studying. So the Pimsleur method, Pimsleur's Japanese on Audible.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty interesting.
Yeah.
How much Japanese do you know now? Like, can you throw out a couple, I want to hear James Wolfe speak some Japanese. I've never heard this before.
I don't know what to say. Watashi wa Nomaira Jameso desu. Hello, this is future James coming in to correct past James's Japanese grammar. What I should have said there was Watashi no Nomaira Jameso desu. Watashi no being the possessive formal pronoun. Watashi wa doesn't really indicate possessiveness, and I was trying to say my name, so I need to have that watashi no on the end of watashi. Anyway, back to our nonsense podcast. My name is James.
That was so nerdy. You freaking nerd.
James is the most weeboo now.
I'm the most weeboo. I'm a super weeboo. By the way, that is definitely making it on the list of Metroid. The top 5. Super weeboo is definitely
super weeboo. Oh wow, that was super. I know from watching some anime that like how to say "I" because I always hear "umaiwa" a lot.
So yeah, there's actually. So I used a second ago. I used watashi to say. I used watashi wa, which is watashi is the normal formal pronoun for I, and then wa is you add it if that's the subject of the sentence. But if you're speaking informally, so like if I were speaking to you, we would use ore instead of watashi, because watashi is more, I don't know, a little more formal, a little more polite.
Yeah, and then a lot of languages kind of the more formal and informal. Yeah. Wow, man, look at you learning a language.
I know some stuff.
I was at a conference and I talked to a Russian girl and I was like, я говорю немного по-русски, как дела, хорошо, it's like a whole thing. And I was like, she was like, oh yeah, you speak Russian. I was like, that's all I know. Just like, hi, how you doing?
Okay. Yeah.
Just that and this little bit of Russian explaining that.
Yeah. So if you run into a Japanese person, you could say hajimemashite, which is, it's nice to meet you.
Well, see, my concern there is I would run up to a random Japanese person and say it wrong, and instead of nice to meet you, I'm saying like, I have a nice penis or something, and then they would freak out.
This has happened. This has definitely happened. Bonus endorsement. Bonus endorsement. I'm going to pull it up right now. Bonus endorsement. There's a nice little supplemental tool you can use to learn a second language, which is Google Translate. So here we go. That was... Oh, it's still going. That was just the sentence I just spoke, translated into Japanese. So basically, Google Translate will translate your... It has voice recognition, and then we'll translate that into another language in real time, which is a nice little tool to help you look up if you want to know what a word is in Japanese. You can say the English word in, or if you want to practice your pronunciation, you can say the Japanese in and get the English out to make sure you're saying it correctly. My wife did exactly what you were afraid of, Leo, which is like saying the wrong thing and having it be very inappropriate. So we were practicing our pronunciation, and I was being kind of goofy, and I was like, "Hey, would you like to have sex with me tonight?" But I said it in Japanese. And then, practicing my pronunciation, I was like, "Hey, you want to have sex with me tonight?" And then, showed her that's how you say it in Japanese. So she tried to say the same thing in Japanese, and Google translated, "Hey, do you want to have some sex with children tonight?"
Oh, no.
I was like, whoa. That's not what we're doing. Like,
wow, how long ago was this? Because the FBI has to be knocking on your door any second.
Exactly, yeah. We're definitely on a list now. This
is in the cloud, dude.
Yeah. So third endorsement, when you're using Google Translate, be careful what you say.
Yeah, maybe use a VPN or proxy or something. I don't know.
Exactly, yeah.
All right. I'm gonna go next, if that's all right.
Yeah, that's fine.
So I got on that airplane with all intentions to play Bloodstained bullshit, and couldn't play more than a few minutes of it. So I just said, screw this. I'm going to find something else on my Switch to play. Okay. And for the longest time, I've had on my Switch, the first two games I bought were Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Good Games Podcast episode 1. Check it out.
Yep.
And the second game I bought with my Switch and had yet to really play at all was Stardew Valley. Yeah. Stardew Valley. So this is a game that I played for literally 10 minutes, thought it was like, oh, that's cute, and then just didn't really play much of. And I know that there was a lot more depth to it, but I just didn't bother going online and figuring out how to do what and whatever. So I spent some time actually really trying to play this game, and now 20 hours later I cannot put it down.
Yeah. Stardew Valley is the fucking shit, dude. Stardew Valley is great.
It's so good. It's such a great game.
It's amazing. Do we want to have a Stardew Valley episode?
I think we should. That would
be awesome.
And in fact, we can even. I'd love to talk about the similarities between Stardew Valley and Harvest Moon, because I know I haven't done enough of that research, but I know that there's a lot of very similar. Yep.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And then a coworker told me about another one that's a Japanese one. It's got more an anime style, and that one's actually coming out with a sequel this year. So anyway, Stardew Valley. If you don't know about it, we'll probably talk about it. It's basically a sort of farm simulator, sort of Animal Crossing sort of dungeon crawly thing. It's really cool. So I will endorse.
Fourth endorsement from me. I'm endorsing the soundtrack to Stardew Valley. It's good. Yeah. Oh yeah. I love the summer and fall themes. Are very good.
I just got to the fall. I'm almost done with fall now, but when I got to the fall yesterday, when that music came on, it struck me. I was like, struck me. I was like, yeah, wow.
Yeah. Oh, so good. So good.
Mm-hmm. So yeah,
John,
I'm playing a lot of that. Endorse that.
What you got, John?
Sounds good. So my endorsement for this week, I think last week I endorsed Attack on Titan, or last time. Sure. But this time, I endorsed a different anime series.
Oh, John's anime endorsement.
Yeah. So I've been watching a lot of Evangelion, Neon Genesis.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah. I'm 10 episodes in, and it's an instant classic. I can see why this is an internet fan favorite, instantaneous masterpiece.
Now who's the super weeboo?
Me.
I was only mocking you because I know I'm such a weeboo, so now you're part of it.
Yeah, I think we're all a little bit of a weeboo. Maybe I'm more so than the other two.
No, I've definitely got you beat, Jen.
We'll see about that.
Top 5 weeaboos next episode.
So yeah, I think like the one thing that sets the series apart from other anime series I've recommended is just it's very artsy. It feels more like a really long film than it does like a cliffhanger series. It kind of has this element of self-contained episodes. You can probably, I mean, there is an overarching story, but you can probably get like a moral of the episode or like a gist of an episode throughout one viewing or one watching. The other thing about it is just I think the science fiction element of it is very solid. Like there's not any moment where I'm like, okay, this doesn't make sense at all, even though like the whole thing is obviously a science fiction story. But it's just really solid. It doesn't really take any weird plot hole turns or anything like that. And yeah, I think that's my recommendation.
Okay.
That's funny because I watched, I don't remember if I watched like a movie, like maybe they had like a spin-off movie or something. But I was very confused by the whole story when I tried watching it.
Yeah, apparently it prematurely ended back in the original showing, the original airing in the 90s. And I think to make up for that, there was like a movie that happened to explain the ending a little bit better.
Yeah, I think that's what I watched. And I was thoroughly confused throughout the entire thing. But
yeah,
maybe that's just my fault for watching that.
I think that's what I've heard from other people who really like the series as well. And then on top of that, I think Netflix did something to the ending of the version that's airing on Netflix, and everyone's really upset with it. And so I'm curious to like watch the movie and watch the alternate, like the original ending, and see like compare the two and see why everyone's so upset.
Yeah, I might have to dig a little deeper into those two.
All right, good stuff. Japanese anime, and what was your endorsement, Leo?
Stardew Valley.
Stardew Valley. Well, yeah, didn't quite fit the theme with anime learning Japanese, but also Stardew Valley. But there's some good endorsements.
Well, they have Japanese names for their chickens, so
Oh, true. That's true. That's true.
My little chicken named Saku.
Any other stuff before we get out of here?
I think that's a wrap.
Okay. Well, if you listening right now have some stuff for us, you can email us at goodgamespodcast. Oh nope, it's goodgamescast. Just goodgamescast without pod, no pod. goodgamescast@gmail.com. Write us.
Who has an iPod anymore?
What?
Who has an iPod anymore?
That's true. Should we just call this? We're Good Games Cast. Should we just drop pod? Should we just be the Good Games Cast?
We probably should.
All
right. Wow, that's another endorsement. Brand new show, Good Games Cast. We're rebranding. Here we go.
Episode 1 next week. Let's go.
Good Games Cast. Relaunch, rebranding. None of this is happening. But you should email us at goodgamescast@gmail.com with recommendations for what we should call our podcast. Or ideas for games you'd like to hear us talk about. Or you
can tell us how much we suck.
Yeah, tell us how much we suck.
How bad we are.
I would love to hear from people about how bad we suck. That's one of my favorite.
That would be great.
Pastimes.
Please do that. Or you could tell us if we're good, or you can tell us if we have nice, sexy voices. That's good, right? All right. Well, I think this podcast has completely crashed off the rails. So let's end this.
Let's call it.
Let's end this. So for the Good Games podcast, watashi wa nomae James desu.
Jampuhaya onamae wa Leo.
Yo soy Juan.
We'll see you next time. Goodbye.
See ya.
Ja mata.
Adios.
look out for the sequel for Bloodstained. The sequel is Cum Stained.
You made this way too easy.
Ritual of a ritual of the night. Cum Stained.
Ritual of the bed.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. All right, that's it. All right.
Okay.
Pause.
All right.
Stop.
All right. We're done now.